Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmas, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Foreign affairs. Hey. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Yeah. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Yeah. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Roundtable Africa on Focus on Liberia. This is where we discuss Africa, that is the continent of Africa. We pick a country or an issue affecting the continent at a time and talk about it. Tonight, we're going to be focusing on the country of Uganda under the topic democracy in Africa. As you may know, Uganda just held an election. And guess what? Museveni, the president Museveni, won his 7th term, which opposition leaders are calling the election fake. Uganda's President Museveni has been re-elected to his 7th term, according to official results, winning over 72%. So there's a lot to know about Uganda. Tonight, we're going to be beginning a two-part series on Uganda. Let me welcome Mohamed Sherif, the man I call Comrade Mohamed, because I know him for almost 40 years. Welcome, Comrade Mohamed Sherif.
Thank you, Dennis. It's great to be here this Saturday night for the East Coast there in the United States.
Thank you. Again, we're going to be talking about Uganda. A lot of things happening in Uganda. And so, Mr. Sherif, I want you to just set the stage for us, for our audience as well.
Yes. So again, thank you very much, Dennis. So Uganda recently had an election, and in the lead up, you mentioned correctly, Museveni has won a 7th term of office. He, according to the Uganda National Elections Commission, he beat opposition leader Bobby Wine. Bobby Wine is a singer turned politician, very popular with young people of Uganda. He's, very much in touch with the grassroots, and he's fearless. Bobby Wine is. He has contested 2 elections now with Mr. Museveni. Bobby Wine went with the 2021 election, contested that. It was claimed that he lost that election. Now it is claimed that he lost this election. And not only that Bobby Wine is, according to the government, losing these elections, but human rights observers and different people have reported incidences of violence. So the government is attacking Bobby Wine and members of Bobby Wine's party, the National Unity Platform Party of Bobby Wine. Bobby Wine's home was attacked by armed gangs, allegedly from the government. Bobby Wine's wife was attacked. Bobby Wine himself was briefly taken into custody, and somehow, some way, according to Bobby Wine, he was able to escape. His whereabouts are unknown at this time. Bobby Wine continues to be a thorn in the flesh of Museveni, the 81-year-old autocrat. And so right now, the government of Uganda is looking for Bobby Wine, and he cannot be found. And this frustration has led to Museveni's son, General Muhezi Kainerugaba, issuing a statement accusing the United States of complicity in Bobby Wine's escape. And he quickly turned around and apologized for that. That he didn't have his information, and this guy Kainerugaba is very dangerous. He's you think his father is crazy, this son is crazier. So he's very crazy. Recently, he said that he admitted to killing 22 what he called terrorists, and these are opposition supporters that he has admitted. So I hope that the international community, it's listening. I hope that the judicial system in Uganda is listening to this. I hope that AU is listening to this, so that this guy at some point in time can be held accountable. He has admitted to killing 22 opposition members. He called them terrorists, and he promised to kill Bobby Wine. His father has made these ridiculous threats himself. So, like son, like father, nothing new.
Thank you. And talking about his son, let's play a clip of his son.
The U.S. Embassy in Kampala.
And this is what he posted.
Because of the present situation where an opposition leader kidnapped himself and is missing, and according to our best intelligence, he did all this in coordination with the current administration at the U.S. Embassy in our country. We, as UPDF, suspend all cooperation with the current administration at the U.S. Embassy in Kampala.
And in a separate post, Museveni's son also issued a threat to foreign powers who may attempt to protect Bobby Wine in the future.
I want to say this only once. Any foreign powers that attempt to smuggle Kabobi outside the country are going to create a serious rupture in relations.
But soon, Kainerugaba reversed his stance. He deleted the post within an hour of putting it up and shared this message.
I want to apologize to our great friends at the United States for my earlier tweets that I have now deleted. I was being fed wrong information. I have spoken with the U.S. ambassador to our country, and everything is okay. We are going to continue our military cooperation as usual.
And this was pretty quick. Now, Museveni's son was unusually quiet during the election campaign, but as soon as his father was declared the winner, he resumed his inflammatory online postings. And his top target has been Bobby Wine. Kainerugaba has said that the manhunt is underway and that he will catch Bobby Wine either dead or alive. He has also denied allegations that his men assaulted Wine's wife, Barbie, during a military raid at their home. Wine has accused President Museveni of rigging elections, which were marred by an internet shutdown, while the opposition was either sidelined or silenced. During the election campaign, Wine said that he would welcome Trump's intervention in Uganda, just like how the US captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro.
And I believe that any assistance that comes our way is helpful. However, that assistance should not be to take over our country. That's why I firmly believe that the responsibility to liberate our country, to govern our country, and to move it forward lies entirely with the people of Uganda.
Mr. Sherif, I know we're going to, in our second episode, we're going to talk more about the election, but just let's wrap this up as to really how things are in Uganda right now. And,
Yes.
Why Bobby, Museveni has been, that's his seventh term.
Yes.
And now, because this is a problem that we always have, now to have is is Bobby Wine a viable alternative, or is like, let's just get rid of this old man? Is that it?
Yes, that's part of it. Because Museveni has been able to annihilate uh, all of the opposition in Uganda. So there's no, almost you could say there's no one left. There's no brave soul left. You see this young man, he's, audacious. He has the audacity to challenge the 81-year-old authoritarian ruler of Uganda. And keep in mind, Museveni came to office through the barrel of the gun. And so Bobby Wine is unafraid of all the threats. You see General Muhozi, Museveni's son, threatening to kill Bobby Wine. Right now, there's almost like a de facto warrant out for Bobby Wine's arrest and death, almost you could say, because he has made that threat. So other politicians don't want to go through this. They don't want to go through what Bobby Wine is going through. They don't want to go through what, Bobby Wine's family is going through. His wife, you heard his wife, on Al Jazeera talked about how she was attacked. Her hair was pulled. They went to her house and attacked her. And she is not, she is, she is a wife to an opposition leader. Why is she being treated this way? But this is the tactics out there in Uganda, and Museveni has been doing this for a very long time, Dennis. He has right now his former ally and former physician, Kizo Besigye. Besigye is currently in jail for trumped up charges. He has annihilated almost Kizo Besigye. People like Mama and Babazi, guys who trained with him in the training camps of Libya, in the Tajura base, to come and overthrow the government of Uganda. So he has effectively eliminated all semblance, all opposition. So now he is the only one standing. So now Bobby Wine comes out of the youth culture that says that enough with this 81-year-old man. So every time they go into vote, however, the will of the people, it seems to be is subdued. It's things happen where the opposition can never find a way to break through. I mean, to win, they're not even allowing them to come close. It's always this 30% margin. The thing about Museveni, Dennis, is that he's not saying that he's winning by 80%, right? He's not winning by 95%. Leave that to Suluhu Hassan and, Lassana Ouattara and Paul Biya and others. He is saying he's winning by 70%. 70. One of the highest now is this current election, where I think it's 75%. So he's not saying he's winning by this, massive, overwhelming margin. However, the margin between him and the opposition, he always makes sure that he keeps them at a distance, 30 percentage point distance. So that's what he's doing. The other thing that Museveni is doing is that he's crossing off his calendar every single time, Dennis, since 1996. Every single time there's election comes around. 96 election was held. 2001 election was held. 2005 election was held. 2011. So he goes according to the electoral calendar. There's no time that he's canceling this election, that he's putting off this election. However, he's not letting the opposition any way into believing that they can win the election. He always says it, I am going to win. So it's a matter of formality. He has already cleared the deck, and it's a formality that these elections are held. And these brave souls, bless their heart. They stand up and say, hey, this is our time, and they go in. Kizo Besigye tried that. Kizo Besigye was very popular, has been an ally of Museveni. Now he's languishing in jail. Bobby Wine is about to go through the same fate as Kizo Besigye.
And they keep fighting. And he's been in power for almost 40 years, right? And he's 81.
Yeah, he's 81 years old, Dennis. He came to power in 1986. But before he did, so he has been part of every instability in Uganda, Museveni, I'm talking about now. Museveni was one of the exile leaders of the Uganda Liberation Front, something like that. That will occasionally cross the border to attack bases, military bases in Uganda from Tanzania under the regime during the regime of Idi Amin. Idi Amin ruled from 1971 to 1979. Museveni went into exile. Museveni was, had a group in Tanzania. Museveni was, coming back in and out. At one point, his group was beaten back so badly that he got discouraged. But so he had always been a rebel before he became president. So during that time period, he kept fighting Idi Amin. When Idi Amin went against Tanzania, and Julius Nyerere decided to take on Amin. Nyerere then brought together, Ugandan exiles. So they went in together, and Museveni was part of that. Museveni was part of the project that overthrew Idi Amin. So after Idi Amin was gone, there was an interim administration. The first member of that interim arrangement was Dr. Yusuf Lule, who became the interim president of Uganda. Yusuf Lule only ruled for 68 days, and he was ousted by the interim body because of disagreement with the interim body, because of disagreement with the Tanzanian government. The next person in line was Godfrey Ben-Aissa. Godfrey Ben-Aissa was then appointed by the interim body. Shortly thereafter, a year, maybe less than a year, 6 months into his administration, Godfrey Ben-Aissa was overthrown by Paulo Mwanga. Paulo Mwanga and Yoweri Museveni was part of that military coup against Godfrey Ben-Aissa. And they went to election in 1980, December of 1980. In December of 1980, former President Milton Obote then won that election. According to the Election Commission, Museveni disagreed. He said he did not agree with the results of the election, and therefore he is not going to negotiate with Milton Obote. So he took his war to the bushes, recruited his men again, and started this prolonged civil war in central Uganda. He captured a lot of areas, and then finally in 1986 he struck Kampala and overthrew the government in 1986. So he has always been around the center of activities, guerrilla activities, in terms of just wanting to be president from youth to the time that he became president. He has always wanted to be president. Almost megalomania. He's a megalomania, I think. So that's the kind of person he is. So that he's there, that he's been there for 40 years. I think if he can go for another 40, he would.
Wow. And thank you for the information. That take me back to let's I always want us to go as much as we can to basics, right? Let's start from let's talk about Uganda in Africa and start from there. I know you put together a slide here. Let's go through that quickly.
Right. So this is the map of Africa. I presented this map in a way that you will see where Uganda is located within the compendium of African states, right? So Uganda, right there, you see the arrow right there. Uganda is located in East Africa. So Uganda is surrounded by countries like DRC, Rwanda, Tanzania, Tanzania, Burundi, and DRC. So Uganda is surrounded by these countries. Uganda has, under Museveni, Uganda has played critical roles in the activities of most of its neighbors. For example, during the Rwandan Civil War, Uganda trained members of the opposition to overthrow the government of Rwanda. It is alleged that Museveni sent troops to assist the Rwandese Patriotic Front of Paul Kagame, which is why Paul Kagame was able to sweep through very quickly, despite all the genocide that the government committed against the Tutsis So he played a critical role in that effort. He also played a critical role in the overthrow of President Mobutu Sese Seko of former Zaire non-democratic Republic of Congo. So it was a conglomeration of Ugandan forces, Rwandan forces, and exile Congolese that overthrew the government of President Mobutu. President Museveni has also been able in recent times to send support to Suluhu Hassan to crack down on pro-democracy protesters. He has also been able to send support to Kenya, to the Kenyan government, to crack down on pro-democracy protesters in that country. So this is the kind of person that Museveni is, and that's the kind of, that Uganda is located in that area. Uganda is strategically important for several reasons. In this area, Dennis, you have in Uganda, one of the things that Museveni has been able to do, despite all of his authoritarian tendencies, he has opened the borders of Uganda to refugees. So therefore, it is estimated that 2 million refugees are currently residing in Rwanda. Most of these refugees are from South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, because as you know, Dennis, there's currently an active rebellion in Eastern Congo. That war has been protracted now for a very, very long time, and Museveni is playing a critical role as host to these refugees. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of refugees in Uganda currently, and that's the kind of role that Museveni is playing. That's how important Museveni is, not just to the region, but to Africa as well.
And at first I used to think Uganda was much bigger than, even though it's a big country, but relative to DR Congo and those other countries, it's not that big.
It's not that big. It's not that big. It's only 93,000 square miles. You think about it, Liberia is 43,000. So they're not that big. They don't have a population of 49 million people, which is a sizable population. So there's more people per land mass, if you think about it. But you have to also consider that, all of these, foreign people, people from other African countries are coming in because he has an open door policy, which has also been a good thing for the Ugandan economy.
Good.
And if you can bring the map up a little bit again. So in Uganda now, so Museveni, after he took power through the barrel of the gun, he was able to fight off all of the opposition armed groups, in Uganda, and several armed groups. He was able to really effectively subdue all armed insurrection, with the exception now, the most protracted is the Lord Resistance Army of Kony. There's a guy called Kony who has it's launched a rebellion against the central government of Uganda to impose the Ten Commandments. He's out there somewhere. He has terrorized northern Uganda in the Gulu region. He has terrorized that region a lot.
And that's been for a long time now.
Yes. Joseph Kony. Joseph Kony has been in that area. The United States made an effort under the Obama administration to find him. He was never found. They did never find him. They've tried. I mean, Museveni has done everything to eliminate Joseph Kony's Lord's Resistance Army. They haven't been able to do that. He's still there. I mean, he has wreaked terror in that region. But with the exception of that, Uganda has been basically peaceful and prosperous too under Museveni.
Let's talk a little more about Uganda, because this is interesting. I like their flag.
Yeah, this is their flag. Yeah. So this is basically their flag, and then Uganda. So a backdrop. How did we get here, right? How the current situation in Uganda evolve? Uganda was a British protectorate. Remember after the Berlin Conference,
Yeah.
when the British talk about protectorate, the semantics, just basic semantics. It was a colony. They called them theirs protectorates, as if they were, protecting us, protecting
Yeah.
African people from anything, right? They go out there and they grab your land and say, oh yeah, this is a protectorate. So Uganda was under British rule from 1894 to 1962. So one of the things that the British were able to do is that they, something called indirect rule. So they will go in a place and keep some of the structures, the traditional structures in place. So one of the things that they were able to do is there were pre-existing kingdoms. There were these kingdoms. For example, one of the kingdoms was the Bugandan kingdoms, a Bantu kingdom. And the traditional value was the king is the supreme leader of the kingdom of Buganda. So they partially left that intact. And with the understanding that Buganda will acquiesce to British colonialism. Of course, they didn't have any way of resisting, so they did. So they accepted the British accepted them. So the Luganda, their language is called Luganda. The local language is called Luganda. So that was elevated, and the Bugandans continue, the monarchists rule up to independence. At independence now, so if you will, the rest of the country was directly ruled by Britain. Buganda was partially ruled by the Bugandan king who was called the Kabaka. Kabaka in their language, the Luganda language means king. So the king was the supreme leader of, if you will, of Buganda. And so after independence, Milton Obote and the Kabaka of Buganda, Edward Matessa, and another politician ran for ran in the parliamentary election. They were the key opposition. They were the key contenders in the election prior to independence. And it turns out that Milton Obote got the most, his party, the UPC party, the Ugandan People's Congress, received the most members of parliament, followed by the DP and the Kabaka Yika party. So what Milton Obote was able to do, he was able to coalesce with the Kabaka Yika party of Mutesa, and they formed the first government. So Milton Obote became the first prime minister of Uganda, and Mutesa was the president, ceremonial president. After a while, there were some accusations against Milton Obote. And Milton Obote didn't like the fact that, the monarchists were exercising a lot of power and people, pay loyalty to, King Mutesa. So Milton Obote is like, we can't have two chiefs, so he basically, dissolved all kingdoms in Uganda. He dissolved the position of prime minister. He declared himself executive president. Sounds familiar? Now we're going from democracy, which is why we're having this show on Uganda right now, because there has been these instances where we started off well, and then somewhere in between, democracy is destroyed, not by the military. Sometimes you would think the military, no, but this was a civilian president who had Uganda started as a multi-party republic. So he was the prime minister. Kabaka Mutesa was the ceremonial president. They could not coexist. It is alleged that there was an allegation of some kind of scandal against Milton Obote. So Obote found the time to dissolve the kingdoms, all kingdoms in Uganda. The Kabaka went into exile, and Obote now was Obote's party became the single party in Uganda. And so the election of 1967, which was scheduled for 1967, was never held. So now Obote now is ruling effectively. He turned Uganda from a multi-party democracy to a one-party state. And the discontent among the Ugandan people is partly the reason for the military coup of 1971, when he attended he was in Singapore at the Commonwealth, I think it was the Commonwealth or Non-Aligned Summit, when he was overthrown by General Idi Amin, and we know how that went. This is something that we're going to get into in depth at some point, because that's an extensive part of Ugandan history. When you're talking about, the rise of Idi Amin and all of the things that happened, during that time period. One of the things that I forgot that the British did, which caused a lot of consternation in Uganda later on, especially when you get to the 1970s, is the British. They were in control of India, so they brought a lot of Indian laborers to work on the railroad. They brought thousands, tens of thousands. Some estimates said 30 to 35,000 people to work on the railway in Uganda. And these Indians, when they got there, the place was nice. I mean, everything was good. So, these people never went back home. It became part of their home, and they stayed there. They stayed here. They have families, businesses and what have you. And a lot of them became Ugandan citizens. And up to this time, you see a lot of these people who are, part of the Ugandan society now, So, but in the 70s, there was so much discontent that Idi Amin actually, give them, very short notice to exit Uganda. Like I said, that's a totally, different discussion that we're going to really, get into in depth at some point later.
And that's important, right? Because the dictators or rulers, even if you go back to the most, dictatorial rulership, they didn't just start in a vacuum. They will come to solve a problem. There you have Ubuti, who needed to go. And so that gave rise to Idi Amin. And Idi Amin sat there and became, what we know of him today.
Right. Listen, like I said, it is usually not the military. Sometimes it's not even the military that that derail the democratic experiment that was started in Africa. Sometimes it's the civilian leaders like Obote. Obote, just destroyed all semblance of multi-party democracy by that act in 1967. So by 1969, Uganda was effectively a single-party state. Obote will, however, come back in 1980, as I explained. He came back, and of course, Museveni wasn't satisfied, and what have you, and he was deposed a second time by the military. He was, very unlucky the second time, and when he died, he was given a state burial. But Museveni has been. So besides Idi Amin, I will argue that Museveni has been the most dominant figure, perhaps more than Idi Amin, in fact. He has been the most dominant figure in Ugandan history. And I was sitting one day and I listened to him, and he was lecturing, he was talking history. So I'm saying, I'm enjoying this guy, right? I forget about, the dictatorship and whatnot. He was talking, and he was really bringing the historical lessons of the old days, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm enjoying this guy. So I look up his profile. He went to Makerere University. He studied political science and economics at Makerere University. So he's not stupid. He's not stupid.
And Mr. Sherif, that's the thing, right? I mean, remember our friend from Alpha Conde from Guinea?
Right.
Most of the time, you will see that there is a problem.
Yes.
And so one of these intellectuals will rise up, and actually will be embraced because there is a pain.
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe in the future we're going to deal with that, because at a time when there is suffering, or if people want a problem solved, sometimes we don't care who that is.
Right.
And I was asking you about Bobby Wine, right? It's like, okay, now we want Museveni to go. Is Bobby Wine the guy?
Right.
But sometimes you want things. I was listening to somebody and said, there was this person who wrote against the appointment of the sport minister, sport minister designate, and said, because we wanted Weah out.
Yes.
This was disaster. We wanted him. So
Right.
most of the time, in our pursuit of having somebody removed,
Hmm.
sometimes we don't do all the homework that we're supposed to be doing.
Right. 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 So, Liberia, right? So vice versa. So we wanna change so bad. So we say,
Yeah,
hey, we will give us a change. So and
yeah.
so will give us a change. And then, we wasn't doing anything. And then they say, oh, Baka, sorry, oh, Papi, sorry, oh, we wrong you,
But,
Papi. See, the
Mr.
song.
Sharif, what we are doing, what we've done, and which is like, okay, because we want to change, we are not
Right.
going out to vet people.
Correct.
We want a
Right.
messiah. So somebody will rise up who will
Yes.
ride on those feelings
Right.
and
Right.
will accept that person even without any further scrutiny. Because the
Yeah.
pain is too much, we want to get rid of it.
Yeah, a demagogue will rise up,
Yeah,
from the ashes of frustration, will rise up and then, make promises to us.
yeah,
And we will buy into that. And then, before you know it, this is old soda in new bottle, still water, still whatever in new bottle. It looks shiny, right? It's a shiny object, but that's about it. So that's basically, that's basically what it is sometimes. And
I know we
you know
covered we covered this part, so if you can quickly gross through why Uganda and then the Tanzanian, and we talk about the population
yeah,
and
yeah,
the colonial period. So if you
yeah.
can,
So we're talking about Uganda now because Uganda is strategically important, right? We're talking about it now because a current event, is happening in Uganda where an opposition leader is being chased, from his home. His wife is living in fear. His family is being attacked, and all the crime was just being a member of the opposition, for Bobby Wine, just standing up to Museveni, standing up for what the Constitution says. So he's performing his constitutional duty. So he is supposed to be supported. He's supposed to be protected because he's performing his constitutional duty. But people like Museveni do not understand that. So he came to power at the barrel of the gun. So that is still there. He hasn't even taken off, the military uniform, quite frankly. That is still in the back of his mind. He thinks about this. So there's no way that he can allow a Bobby Wine to come close. So it's always the massive margin, and then because of the popularity this time of Bobby Wine and all the young people and all the things that they were doing. So he wanted to make sure that he's teaching not just Bobby Wine a lesson, but he's teaching those young people a lesson. Because if you attack Bobby Wine, if you kill Bobby Wine, then those young people don't have a messiah in the calculation of people like Museveni, people like his son Muhoozi, who is likely, according to Ugandans, that he's been groomed to succeed
yeah,
his father because his
100%.
father is 81 years
And,
old.
and Mohammed, how do we deal with this? Okay, there is this thing about internal affairs.
Yes.
So things like this one, they're happening, and other countries, what do you do? I mean, look at the one that took place in Guinea. At first, when he overthrew or ECOWAS said, we don't want to see this guy. Now they
Right,
went
right,
back and said, well, I think you are election, and you
right,
fill out some check marks, and so now
right,
we
right,
can
right,
do business with you,
right,
right? So when
right.
things like this begin to happen, how do we approach it? What do other African leaders and regional bodies, what do we do?
First, you need a serious, very serious regional body. You need a very serious EAC. You need a very serious and strong, ECOWAS. Remember when we had at some point at the fleeting moment, Dennis, it seems like a fleeting moment, when we had a strong ECOWAS,
You're right.
the ECOWAS that came in to say, we don't want you to do this. If you do this, this is what we're going to do. We're going to intervene and stop the fighting and stop the chaos and stop the death and destruction. If you overthrow a government, we're going to come in, we're going to intervene. You're going to be removed. So these deterrents have to be there for people like, Museveni. there is no deterrent. He does not think about going to court one day to answer for his crimes. So therefore, his son, like father, like son, his son is stepping right in those shoes. So your question is a very good question. There has to be something in the minds of these leaders that tells them that there is a deterrent. One of these days that you are going to be held accountable for what you're doing now. But there is no such thing. So we don't have the regional bodies to attack these issues. We don't have any bodies, organizations that are, as far as Africa is concerned, that's really recording these crimes
Right.
for a future action. You heard, the former Nigerian president, what he said. He contradicted Bobby Wine's conclusion about ballot stuffing. He said there was no ballot stuffing, but he did comment on some other things. But the former Nigerian president, Goodwood Jonathan,
Right.
who was an AU, I think as an AU observer, said there was no ballot stuffing. So on the other hand, he's really not distancing himself from the excesses, Museveni's excesses. He's saying, well, the things that they're doing, the arrest of the opposition, because he cannot, no conscious person can close their eyes on these things.
Yeah.
And that's the observer. So you shouldn't be there saying, well, there's no ballot stuffing. You should be saying, as far as we know, we did not see any evidence of it, but we're still investigating because
Right.
it is possible. How is this old man winning by 50 percentage point?
And even if there's no ballot stuffing, there's something else.
There's something else. There's always something else. He
Yeah.
has been able to manipulate the election. Trust me, these guys in the first 10 years, you know how it is done. It's in the United States. After 2 terms, we're ready for change already, right?
Yeah.
After 2 terms of presidency, oh man, we're tired. Oh, we don't want such a, we want a new person. We always, how is it that these guys, right, who've been there 40 years, who wants you there now?
But
40 years.
and
That's a
so
joke.
because like you alluded to, there's no regional body. Nobody's taking
Yes.
the person who's there, like in the case of the Guinean president become normalized. Our
Yes.
president was there, so
Yes.
it's okay now. So
Mhm.
where do people turn later on? They turn to the West, who sometimes do not have our best interest, but their own
Mhm.
interest. We
Mhm.
heard Bobby once saying, "Hey, we want the United States to come and take him away the same
Mhm.
way they did to Venezuela, right?"
Right.
And he tried to later on walk that back, right?
Right.
So, and when you are faced with these things,
Mhm.
you want help, no matter where
Right.
it's coming from.
Right.
This is a
Right.
very difficult position to be in as Africans.
Yeah, it's a position to be in, and you don't want to just as an opposition leader. If you want to be a serious opposition leader, you're not calling on forces outside to come and take over your president, come and arrest your president, put your president in handcuffs and take your president away. You want to mobilize the masses of your people to take that responsibility on, to march to the state house, like we used to say in LU, with bullets to our chests. And then look, and then when the people bring rubber bullets and stuff like that, then we're running, right? And, tear gas, then we're escaping from things. But these are the things, right? So they have to be able to make sure that the masses of the people understand they're conscious, that they're conscientized, that they're very conscious of their duties, their national duties, to be able to defend their rights, that the people are conscientized enough to defend their rights, to make sure that they can say one day that we're having a conference, regardless of whether Muhozi liked this conference, regardless of whether Museveni likes this conference, we're going to have a conference. And this conference is going to be enough, not again. Let me go back to something that you referenced on Guinea. So, when Mamadi Doumbouya took over, there was this outcry and, sanctions and whatnot. So what Doumbouya was able to do was he quietly laid the groundwork, reversed his position and said, you know what, I'm running. And he ran. So So this is a new thing, Dennis. You can bring together some group of people, and you call them opposition, and these are supposed to be your opposition.
Yeah.
They're not really serious opposition, but they're just there. I mean, after the election, you can offer them jobs and stuff like that. Who knows if money is changing hands?
Right.
Now they're to me they are makeshift, right? They're makeshift opposition. They're
And they're
there.
all for coalition government at the end because there's opposition, and
Yes,
that will further strengthen his hands. Like hell yeah, he is
yes,
very open.
right. So now you go and organize an election. You have three or four parties, that have no chance, zero chance of winning, and you organize this election, and you win the election because you're the incumbent. You have the resources. That is, these guys have resources, so you have the resources to expand. And these are the ones that don't have the resources.
Yeah.
They can't go anywhere without your assistance. You, the incumbent, you have to give them pickup trucks. You have to give their candidate pickup trucks to travel to the interior. Otherwise, they can't travel because some roads are impossible. So other candidates want to move about, but they cannot move about because they don't have the logistics. So this is, I'm telling you something that happened in Guinea. So these are things, from what I heard, occurred. Some of these people were really not serious contenders. And so the way I cleared the field, he cleared the field by, not allowing or instituting investigation on these other guys who were the serious candidates. And Selu Dalin Jallo is one of the guys who was considering running for the president. He has been running. He ran against Alpha Conde twice, and I'm sure he's going to run now, but he's in exile. He cannot come back. He's afraid to come back because there's an investigation that was open. Mm-hmm. And Doumbouya has asked him to come back and, clear his name. But, Jallo is not coming back. And Kouyaté is another one of those opposition leaders who's also didn't contest the election. So Sidi Touré is another one. So all these, serious opposition leaders in Guinea did not participate. So therefore, that left the room or the field, if you will, for Doumbouya to then, win with an overwhelming margin. And once that happened, then ECOWAS said, "Oh, okay, everything you've satisfied our requirement.
You're good now."
Yeah, you good. You good.
And let's go back to 1985. What did Samuel Doe, the hunter leader, do? Okay, so people like the LPP of Amos Sawyer, all these guys, or UPP, Bikers Mafia, they were the guys. He said, these guys can run. So what do I do?
Yes.
Hey, Dr. Edward B. N. Castle, who I was looking at to be my vice president, you can have your party. Gabriel Boulay, the 42-year-old night teacher who nobody knows.
Right.
And now and that playbook is over and over and over. And because all leaders now looking at that and say, okay, I could be next. I mean, take our own president. I'm not saying President Bouaga is going to do that, but you are setting the stage. So you go to Guinea. This guy is good now, even though you did all this, you overthrew. But now you ratify certain things, and so we can work with you.
Right.
Because, and I can take from that playbook too, because
In the case of 85, when Doe did that, you took a nice school teacher in William Gabriel Paulet and said, the man, how we used to call these people, the man our teacher. The man our judge. What is man going to do? The man our teacher. But he became potent. And then you take Edwin B. N. Kesseley, who was also underestimated. Yeah. Well, this man can't win, And then the real mistake then was, Jackson F. Doe, because Jackson F. Doe was a surprise, to the NDP. I think that if they knew that Jackson F. Doe was going to be a very serious candidate, I don't think they select him. But he surprised.
And he became serious because everybody else went there. They said, well, we can continue to fight. What happened is those guys were not, in exile. They were there. So instead of us fighting, we can just coalesce with. So that's what happened. So you see the Tuareg who they were there. And so
Right,
what could
right,
they do?
right.
But,
So
but
you're right.
so the main thing now, so if you look at today, what we just listed is like almost 40 years ago.
Yes, yes,
Today, it's
it's
the
happening.
same thing, Mr. Sharif.
Yeah, yes, it's happening. You said it right, Dennis. It's an old playbook. When you think about it, 40 years ago, Doe had the awareness to do this, right?
Yeah.
He had the awareness to clear the field this way. These guys that was going to give him tough time, he called them what? Communists and socialists. Okay, your party, your vision is not congruent with our values, with our democratic values as Liberians. So you cannot contest. And Amos Sawyer fell into that category. Bacchus Matthews fell into that category. Whether it was the case or not, Doe just wanted to make sure that these guys were taken out of the race. And once he cleared the field that way, there was, he was assured that he was going to win the election,
Right.
perhaps in an overwhelming manner. Of course, later on, he was surprised by
Yeah,
what
we were surprised.
the opposition was tenacious, in '85, and they weren't ready to go down
No.
quietly.
And after that, we had a grand coalition. He had all three of them in Bella Yala.
Yeah, he had
Man, history.
yes, he had the Grand Coalition members in Bella Yala. So again, that's the playbook, right? After the election, if the opposition complains, what is happening now in Uganda? If the opposition complains, we're going to arrest all of them
You're
and
right.
put them and lock them up. It's the old playbook. 40 years ago, Doe them did this thing, and it's still working. Dennis, before Doe, Tubman then did
Oh,
this
yeah.
thing,
But no was
and
the
it
master.
works, right? You clear the field and you call it democracy. Uh, it's not democracy like Uganda, especially the case of Uganda. Democracy to me, Dennis, is not just holding election.
No.
It's not just holding election. That's just one requirement. But what kind of election are you holding right here? Is it free? Is it transparent? Is it fair? Is the opposition, is the playing field level?
Right.
The counting process on all these different processes are the ingredients of democracy. Observers, how transparent is the counting process? These are the ingredients
Right. Have you
of
even
real
provided
democracy.
the education so that
The
people
voters,
understand to know how to vote?
voters role. That is the voters role. One of the countries that we discussed, I think it was Cameroon that we discussed.
Yeah.
When the opposition asked for the voters role after the election, the ruling administration came up and said, "Okay, just in case you guys are looking for the voters role, we have it. If you need it, we have it. It's right. It's right. It's right here. But you should have published." I don't want to. I don't want to say the profane word that I wanted to say because we on live TV here. But you should have published this thing a long time,
Right.
months before, so that opposition can be able to challenge this. They can see if there's discrepancy. They can challenge it. But after the election, when the counting is going on, you say, "Okay, you guys asked for, but you think we don't have it, but we have it. Here it is."
Right, yeah.
I mean, look,
And I remember, I think it was Ivory Coast that they annulled the election. The opposition said, "Oh, why do you even want it?" He said, "No, you don't even need it." Ladies and gentlemen, if you just joining us, this is Roundtable Africa. If you want to be a part of it, call 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403 #, and we're discussing Uganda. That's the country of, I think the three people we know that Milton Apollo Boti, we know Idi
Yes.
Amin, and Yoweri Museveni. Those three guys, I think
Yes.
they own Uganda.
Yes. Those are the three guys that we know, and those three guys, they've each done something that harmed Uganda's democracy. I discussed them briefly, and I'll reiterate. Milton Obote did what he did, and he derailed Uganda's genuine democracy. And then, of course, Idi Amin was not interested. I mean, he was just the military leader. He wasn't going to do any kind of democratic thing. If you talk about democracy to Idi Amin, I mean, this is 6 feet under, right? So he was not interested in all of that. When it came to Museveni, acquiesced to this, with all of the, wind of democracy going on in Africa. But he again, Museveni is not really interested in democracy. All he's doing is every 5 years, he does hold this kind of election. He will hold election. There's no problem with holding election on time too. He does. But the opposition is not going to win.
No. So let's just do it. So I always like to draw the parallels, what we see, and we gave the history. Let's preview what's coming next when it comes to Uganda. What we're going to be talking about next. But before we get into that, what do you see? What parallels can you draw with Liberia?
Well, we talked about one of the parallels, didn't we? We talked about what happened in 1985, like 40 years ago. I don't know if you can hear me, Dennis, if this my feed is still coming through.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. So good. So we talked about 40 years ago, the same playbook that Doe used. And so these things are dangerous, and it seemed like it's happening more and more now than before. So I'm afraid, is this something, and genuinely, I don't say this because I am presenting, democracy on Africa. I'm really, sometimes when I do these things, I take them personally because these leaders, again, what do I keep saying over and over and again? They are copycats. They listen to one, they look at one another, they watch one another. An old leader, Museveni, 81 years old, if he can use this kind of trick, and what is preventing anybody in Liberia from doing the same? You're going to clear the field. You make sure that the weakest of the opposition candidate enters the race. Now you're not putting anyone else in there to give you, like we say, hard time. Okay, you just look for the weak candidate, and then you go on winning forever. This sort of longevity, just staying over time, is something I hope that we don't see. Right now, our constitution in Liberia talks about 2 terms. That has so far been respected. It was respected by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why Joe Boyka shouldn't respect it. My problem is Joe Boyka is the next election going to be transparent? This is where I have my doubt. With everything that I saw from the beginning, attacking, the legislature like this way, installing your own speaker, forcing your speaker down the throats of the legislature, infringing on the powers of separation, the doctrine of separation of the 3 branches of government. So Dennis, you already see a Museveni tendency. So I don't want anything like that to fester. I hope that we've seen the worst with what happened during this episode with Kofa and Kun and all these other people. I hope that we've seen the end of that, the end of the assault on Liberian democracy. Even to the point where ECOWAS came in to negotiate with our leaders. And our leaders turned down ECOWAS's plea. And now, every now and then, they get on, they take 100-man delegation. They go to Nigeria for these conferences. They go elsewhere for these ECOWAS conferences. And yet, when the regional body that you subscribe to is laying down, a formula for you to come out of a crisis, and you turn them down, you think these people are serious for regional integration, this is just by word of mouth. You know,
Yeah.
they're not serious about regional integration. They're only concerned, they only go to the regional organizations when they're in need. Oh, we need you. If there's a crisis, I bet you they will need ECOWAS. Taylor did this. He said, status of forces, go home. We don't need you. But once he was in trouble, he said, well, we need you to come now and save us
Yeah.
because our people are dying. When did you know this, Mr. Taylor?
Well, Mr. Sherif, with the Foya Villa, maybe we are getting on there. But let's preview where
Do
we
you,
going with
do you,
Uganda the next time.
do you- yeah, let me ask you a question, Dennis. If you know the answer, do you know Badalite?
No,
Okay, the village of Badalite was
it,
Mabutu's. That's what Mabutu built
that was
his
Mobutu Foya.
yes. That was Mabutu's square. Where is Badalita now? Badalita is lying in ruins. Ruins. Where, animals, lizards, and, bugs, and different sorts of animals are residing in there. Maybe ghosts even
Yeah.
living
And
in
we don't know
Mabutu's
how
square.
Tuzon is now. Or
Lord,
Tuzon
tell
for
me about
gold,
it.
Bento for Turbot, and Harper for Tubman.
Tell me about it. This is the thing. So if these things are not built on a foundation, a true foundation of responding to the needs of the people, they are just facade. They
Yeah.
are just for a time period. It's for the time period of the leader who built them. They are not permanent. History has taught us that. That is when we speak based on historical evidence. We
Yeah.
have the evidence. We have the evidence to adduce that these are facade. Mabutu's Badalita is in ruins. You know, Tuzon's mansion is in ruins. The Tobo, estate, it's in Bento, it's in ruins. Tubman's house, which was Tubman's during the lifetime of Tubman, that was that was his second mansion.
Yeah.
So they said that people who wanted jobs and stuff like that, you go to Harper, you go meet the old man in Harper. When you meet him there, something good. If he allows you to, if he saw you there, something good comes out of that meeting. Look, that place is in ruins. So, Foya, I hope that the UP people will not come after me. But again, historical evidence has shown us that you do these things, after the leader who built them has departed this world. These facilities usually um, run down the ground, and they will lay waste
Yeah.
waste hundreds of millions of dollars that could have been used to refurbish and invigorate education, quality education. My alma mater, Luke's in Tenebris, the University of Liberia, it's been used, it's been misdirected to a compound. Are you serious about regional integration? You don't listen to ECOWAS. So what are we talking about? Maybe build a school of regional integration at the University of Liberia. Maybe paint the University of Liberia.
Mhm.
How about painting the University of Liberia?
Okay.
How about some bathrooms?
Yeah.
How about that? Let's start with bathrooms. Okay, let's just start. Let's leave the paint. Let's just start with bathrooms. We do bathrooms, let's do one bathroom a month. Just one bathroom a month. Okay, so when you carry the 50-member delegation, two of those people should stay. So you carry 48. The other two, the expenses, you take that money that you're supposed to spend on those two. Like Fagon can stay, somebody else can stay. The money you're supposed to spend on him and that other person, you go and renovate one bathroom per
Yeah.
month.
Or just get bleach and other cleaning materials to why? Comrade, I've been going, and let me give you a little bit. I've been kind of doing some videos on the Liberian Civil War, right?
Yes,
So I
yes.
asked, some young people, their parents, they're in like eighth grade, ninth grade. I'm asking if there is anything about the Civil War that's been explained to these people or taught.
Mhm.
And as we said, I don't think there is anything.
Right.
I mean, how do we fight a war that destroy almost quarter million of our people that we continue to live with the scars even today?
Right.
And we don't want to talk about it. We
Right.
don't want to teach the children so that they will hate war, so that they will know that at some point, these were some of the mistakes that we made that led to war. And so
Right.
let's make sure that we don't have a recurrence. And we
Right.
just think it's okay. And we've seen the result of everything that the war has caused.
Yeah.
Are we pretending that it didn't happen, or we think it does not exist, or it doesn't have any link to the present? What are we doing?
What we're doing is we always say, we think that we live in this world of denial. So we say, don't talk about that to me. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear all the bad things. We're in
Oh,
2026.
bringing bad luck.
You bring in battle. What they both talking about? Wars or the anti-intellectuals say these people know too much book. They think they think that happen. They think about it. Then is the American Civil War.
Yeah.
It's over 150. I think it's about 100 and some odd years, right? 50. I could be, I stand corrected, but it was the end of 1865. So let's do the math. So the American Civil War led to the death of maybe 600,000 Americans, on both sides. That led to the surrender, of the Confederate Army when General Robert E. Lee, surrendered at the Appomattox courthouse. So that effectively concluded the American Civil War. The South was defeated, and so in 2026, Americans are still teaching young people about the American Civil War and the causes of the American Civil War,
Yeah.
and a lesson that we draw that I certainly drew from my history class, learning the American Civil War is that there were things that should not have occurred. There were things that should not have happened. That did happen, for which the war was fought. And so the lessons you draw lessons, so that that you don't repeat the mistakes that were made. There were historical mistakes that were made, historical crimes, if you will, that were committed against certain people, which was some of the causes of the American Civil War. In our own situation, there were mistakes, historical mistakes that were committed, which was the cause or some of the causes of our war. And we're saying when you teach history, this is why history is so important. And this is why I love history, because history is a lesson. History is not just a lesson, but history is a teacher. So it teaches you about what happened before and how you interpret that past to incorporate your present experience and to project the future, so that the things that you did that led to what you did, that you're not repeating those mistakes. That's why you hear people say, those who ignore history, history repeats itself, and all of these different things of that nature. Look, the executive mansion, if I'm an advisor to the president, I would say let's hire a executive mansion historian, right? Let's hire a historian. The foreign minister need to hire a historian, because they have that in the United States, right? The White House historian, historian for the State Department. So they have this. It's a very, very important task, And I'm talking about real history. I'm not talking about haphazard people, real historians. So people that can advise, and in fact, the president needs to have somebody that can advise him on historical events. Let's start with that.
They don't like that.
They don't like that because too much book. I mean, what we're doing now, we're doing that. This is too much book for people already. For some, the powers that be already. These people, they don't mind them. They know too much book, right?
Okay. We don't have any color now, so we can wind it down. Let's set the stage for the next episode.
The next episode that we're looking at, so definitely we have to finish Uganda, right? So we have to finish the second part, and the second part will deal with I believe I talk about the fall of Milton Obote. Obote was deposed in January of 1971. And then Idi Amin comes into office, and Idi Amin did a lot. So we want to talk about the Idi Amin period from 1971 to 1979. And then we will quickly go through the 80s where you had these interim presidents, that were, removed one after the other. Dr. Yusuf Lole, Godfrey Ben Aissa, and Paulo Mwanga. Paulo Mwanga actually was, an ally of, Yoweri Museveni. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, he's not that important. But the three most important people in Ugandan history are Yoweri Museveni, Idi Amin, and Milton Obote, and we have to talk about them and liaise that with current with contemporary events. I don't think we'll spend so much time, and after that, I would like to talk about Mauritius. So we're going to discuss Mauritius. These are good democracy. Tonight, we're discussing a democracy that is a bad democracy. I wanted to keep I wanted to keep the good democracies. I wanted to keep that rolling. We went to Cape Verde. We talk about Cape Verde, which is a very good democracy. And after Cape Verde, I wanted to talk about Mauritius, but I haven't talked about Mauritius yet. So when I return, home, we'll talk about Mauritius, and and then but after we finish Uganda, we'll talk about Mauritius.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for your time. We want to thank our viewers for watching. Roundtable Africa is the only show, in the Liberian social media space where we talk Africa. So please share the show, invite someone, and continue to follow Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Comrade, your parting comments, and then we'll close.
Yeah, Badikum, I want to thank our viewers. Please join us. This is a show that's it's intended to educate, and it's your show. So especially Roundtable Africa. We want your participation, messages or whatever. I've committed myself to doing the research. Coming up with things that I already know. And adding more to it. Bringing this to you. And Dennis is aware right now. I never had enough sleep. Now after this, I have to go to sleep because I'm halfway across the world. We're Sunday. This is Sunday now. So so the commitment that Dennis brings to this, he could be doing something else. So do I. And you guys are watching us, following us. You could be doing something else, but you are with us. So we want you to come in. Support the channel, support our cause. And please subscribe to the channel, and look, we will continue to bring good and decent programming that FOL is known for.
Melissa Lumense would like to hear about Patrice Lumumba and Congo during his time.
Yes.
And what I say again, until we unite the Mano River Union, nothing will change alone. Liberia, Guinea, Ivory Coast, and maybe Senegal should unite and form a big state. Nothing will change. Country Professor, greetings to the two brothers, children of the great Mali Empire. There's a lot to learn from you guys, and we appreciate all the comment. Charles say, I wish you could stay a bit longer. I'm sharing your live videos with many group chats, both in Liberia and Uganda. Thank you, Charles. Say, our brother Bobby won the election. Clearly, don't be confident when someone tells you they love you or like you. Words are easy, feelings are easy to say in a moment. Well, I want to thank you. Keep your comments coming and keep following up. We appreciate your time. Until then, we're going to close.
And Dennis, before you close, Patrice Lumumba, Melissa's request, thank you so much. Thank you so much. One of my favorite people, of all times, besides my parents, it's got to be Patrice Lumumba. This very confident young man who was murdered, only 34 years old. And what they did to him never erases his memory. So Patrice Lumumba, build monuments in our minds, in our hearts, and he's always in our hearts. He's always in my heart. So I have listened to his some of his speeches, especially the speech that he gave in 1960, which he was savagely murdered. This entire speech is in French, so I have taken time to listen to this speech, and it's one of the greatest speeches of all time. I've never heard a speech like that, like Patrice Lumumba delivered, and the audacity, how he delivered this, the moment that he delivered this, the time that he delivered this, when all these other cowards were sitting there, these cowards, these other leaders, were sitting there. The leaders, other leaders of the Congo were sitting there. They were afraid to talk to the Belgian king, the Belgians that came and destroyed Congo, that stole Congo's resources and killed millions of people. The war crimes that the Belgians committed against the Congolese people, it's insurmountable. When you think about what happened, I mean, people's limbs were cut off. People's eyes were gashed out. All these things happened to the Congolese people. It's definitely a crime against humanity that was never investigated. And so what Patrice Lumumba did that day on June 30th, 1960 was to remind the world, to remind our oppressors that you're not going to oppress us forever. And no, you never gave us, he said to the Congolese, to the Belgian king, no, you speak to us in condescending manner. You didn't give me my independence. You didn't give the Congolese independence. What you're seeing today is the effort of our blood and sweat that we fought hard for. And we will never forget this moment. Patrice Lumumba reminded, the king and the royalty of Belgium that day. That was a monumental moment in African history. This is a history that should be taught in all classrooms. And it's not, unfortunately, it's not, but it should be. But we're going to make an effort then, here on FOL, to bring these things to our viewers.
And thank you, Melissa, for also suggesting that. I've been making that attempt and to create, and those of you to create some of these things. So I have had I'm using a tool to bring some of these, just share 5 minutes, something that will live with you. And it'll be using the help of artificial intelligence to compile some of the history and present them in the video. So I've posted the playlist of those kind of videos. And just for Melissa, just for your sake, I'm going to just show you a snippet of what we are doing. And let me get your feedback, right?
1960, Independence Day in the Congo. Dignitaries filled the hall. The King of Belgium sat in the front row. Everything was arranged, speeches prepared, celebrations planned. And then a young prime minister stood up and said what no African leader had dared to say in the presence of colonial power. His name was Patrice Lumumba. His words shook empires. And within 7 months, he would be dead. To understand Lumumba, we must first understand the Congo. For 75 years, Belgium ruled the Congo with a brutality that shocked even other colonial powers. Millions died under forced labor. Hands were severed as punishment. Rubber and minerals flowed to Europe while the Congolese people were denied education, opportunity.
And if you want to see more, just visit our YouTube channel. You will have in the playlist documentary, you will have some of these things. And that's my refined version, given the documentary. So we are doing our very best to bring you everything that you possibly can get. Things that have not been even dreamt about when it comes to what we do here. So, hey, keep following us and support us, share the show, and we're definitely going to give you the best. We have the people here. Mr. Sherif and other people have committed to do these things, and all we need from you is share, like, and sometimes just watch and say thank you. We appreciate your time. Until then, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." No matter which party you support, no matter which region of Liberia you come from, no matter which language you can speak or which food you enjoy, It could be GB, Kitili, Tomogi, Panwai, or Pankana. We are all Liberians. Until then, have a good night and God bless.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.